Yes, sir.
So I'm going to have to start again, then, obviously, sir. I myself intervene in this debate on this resolution, sir, to get some clarity and ask some questions to, especially in the light of government serious fiscal deficit. I mean, I think that we are duty-bound, especially as an opposition, to make sure that every last dollar, really and truly, of taxpayers' money is spent with transparency and proper governance and accountability. A few months ago, in September, in the height of the serious problem in terms of collection of garbage in this country, after all, they had one garbage truck servicing 4 constituencies in the north: St. Lucie, St. Peter, St. James, and St. Thomas. We heard from the minister that private people were going to collect garbage, and yes, the situation was apparently alleviated for a while. We don't know how much was expended in that. We heard a figure of about, I think, $411 inclusive of VAT. Don't know per ton, whatever it was. But nothing came to Parliament in this regard. So we're voting money now in terms of Sanitation Service Authority. More money for Sanitation Service Authority, but yet you had private collectors collecting garbage. And therefore, my question would be, why, therefore, is there still a shortfall in terms of SSA revenue connection, but still you had the private contractors? How much has been paid to those private contractors to date, vis-a-vis SSA? What is the government's policy going forward in terms of privatization, rationalization, whatever words you want to use it, in terms of garbage collection in this country? Secondly, Mr. Chairman, Beautify Barbados, my colleague, the Honourable Member for St. George South, mentioned that. I'm concerned about Beautify Barbados because, yes, quite a few, in fact, at least 7 of those, I think 60-something odd persons who were unceremoniously terminated from Beautify Barbados. I think it was in February, March 2014. In other words, 3 years ago, were from the constituency of which I have the honor to represent. That matter has not been resolved according to, as the Honourable Minister has admitted, in terms of whatever severance package they would get on termination benefits. We've been hearing too long. They demonstrated on at least 2 occasions, I believe, in front of his office. The permanent secretary, I believe, made a statement that the matter was being looked at. That was over 2 years ago. I don't know if we were getting an opinion from the Attorney General's chambers. I think that the minister's response here tonight, that the matter is going to be looked at or is being looked at, is not satisfactory, because this is 3 years now, 36 months that they were dismissed, and that is high time for this matter to have been resolved. If these workers, yes, were on contract, it was a situation where every year or 2 their contract was renewed. I certainly know under the last Barbados Labour Party regime, they were paid a gratuity at the end of those 2-year contracts. I believe that the payment of that gratuity was terminated under the Democratic Labour Party. What is the position? These are people, I can tell you, certainly those 7 who are in my constituency, I can't speak for the others, are still unemployed. They have families. They have, according to the Honourable Member for St. James South, in terms of his personal position, they have bills to pay, rent to pay, children to feed, food to buy, VAT increase, VAT on medication now over the counter. These are human beings, fellow Barbadians, that it can't be taking 36 months to resolve the issue. On the issue, sir, the Honourable Minister preempted me on the issue of whether they have audited statements, getting to understand how I operate, because I think it is certainly a lack of proper governance and transparency to come here to Parliament and ask Parliament to vote monies for statutory corporations, which under the law you should have audited financial statements and annual reports brought before this Parliament within 6 months of the end of a financial year, and that is not done. The Honourable Minister said that, I mean, NCC was almost up to date, or was up to date 2015, so I mean, we give on that, but what about the Sanitation Service Authority? Because, as I said, we have to deal, especially in an age of tremendous fiscal pressure on this nation state of ours, we have to be the guardians of the taxpayers' dollars. And what is the latest financial annual report laid in this Parliament for viewing of honourable members and analysis of the Sanitation Service Authority? If you're asking us to vote money for these statutory corporations, we have to be transparent. That was the buzzword of the Democratic Labour Party's 19 to 2008 presentation to the people of Barbados, and as far as I'm concerned, the basis on which they were elected. The issue of what I would wish to know as well too, Mr. Chairman, is how does now the National Conservation Commission and the need to vote for additional funds for NCC, how does that now tie in with what happened in this Parliament a few months ago, where we voted $5 million to help clean up Barbados? I think that was just before independence. I believe that was in November. How does that relate now to the work that NCC does? And where are we at with that project? That was to run, I believe, for 3 months, which probably would terminate around now. And because, I mean, it is true that that was under the Ministry of Health, but this is all one government. The people's taxes going into all one government, NCC, Ministry of Health, all the same when done. When the taxpayers have to pay the money, end of the month, they ain't care whether it going to Ministry of Health or NCC, they know that they have to pay taxes and VAT and everything else. And the final issue, certainly in this intervention, Mr. Chairman, is the issue of neighbours' property. I mean, you know, sometimes I wonder what the Democratic Labour Party really and truly why they bother to go and ask people to elect them to run a country. Because the Honourable Attorney General has been Attorney General now for effectively 7 years, from the time he was acting Attorney General. And we have been hearing about this issue, about the problem with neighbours' properties and the effect of neighbours' properties on your property in terms of the bush and all of that. Believe you me, for a very long time, the Honourable Member for St. Philip South is the Attorney General of Barbados. He is the person constitutionally responsible for bringing legislation to Parliament, formulating it, drafting it, taking it to Cabinet, certifying the constitutionality of that piece of legislation, and to come in here this good evening, the 17th of March, in the year of our Lord 2017, and say that he feels that we should have some kind of solution to this problem is not acceptable to the people of Barbados. The Attorney General, after 7 years, should have come up with a solution, should have brought such legislative remedy to this Parliament, and do what he is constitutionally responsible to do, instead of saying that he feels that the problem should be resolved, and say, what is the Democratic Labour Party there as the ruling party of this country to do? These would be the questions that I have at this stage. Thank you, I'm obliged.